Hello all you lovely computer scientists. Today we're going to be showing off all the ways to set up an input to be a different thing than a string. So input casting. It could have be an integer, a float, a boolean, a hexadecimal, a string if you want, yeah. But we'll show off all ways to cast a string correctly into a different data type. When you are working in Python, you will end up having inputs from user 99% of the time, unless you are creating a program where you, as the programmer, input the data. So usually our inputs will look like this. Variable equals input, and some message will enter it, so enter a number. Now, as you can see, we're asking for a number to be entered, but as you will see, if we print the type of our variable, no matter what I input, I can input 5 string. So we can't actually use that for any calculations. It is not a number to our program. To our program, that is about as much as a number as the word hello is. So what we would need to do is, with any input, we would need to cast it, change its data type, so say int. Now what this will do is it will automatically make whatever we put into it a number, if it can. So if I put 5, class integer. So now we can actually use that, so we could do print variable -1. We can actually do things with the number. So once again 5, int, and then returns 4, because that's an actual number now. Let's see if we do the same thing, but without the int, it will give us a error. Unsported operand. Strings and integers. Now you can have it be other things. You can have it be floats, right? Just to prove it. Let's make it a float. 5, 12.0. Just quickly gonna remove variable there, so I can show it off with non-numbers. But you can have it be a bool. Variable equals bool. So if I input true, class bool. So yeah, you can cast it like that. There is another option if you want to cast it differently. After the variable equals int variable after, that also works, but it is more efficient to do it on the same line, as you are saving space. So if I do once again 5 class integer, it is more efficient to do it on the same line, as you are saving space in your code, therefore making it more readable, and you're also saving file size, which would make your code run faster as well. So yeah, that's input casting in its most basic form. Thank you all very much for watching the video. I do hope you learned something. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe. Especially comment, because I love hearing how you learn, so I can make better videos for you and me, so we can both learn a bit more effectively. Thank you very much. Hello all you lovely computer scientists. So today we're going to be showing off a very special little thing called input verification. And basically what it is making sure that your input is what you want it to be before changing it to a different type of data. This avoids casting errors, such as trying to cast a string that is not purely numbers into an integer or float. You use commands such as isNum, isalphanum, and things like that. You are specifically making a program for a function. So you might be doing just something random, but usually you'll have inputs. And will usually look like this. Variable name, input, brackets, and then whatever message you want to type to. And also established in the last episode, so like it's a big series. Also established yesterday, it will almost always be a string. As you can see, there'll be a string. I'll just print the variable itself. Now, let's see. Enter message, we'll have it be hello world. String, hello world. Now, if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to say subtract something, you might have it be an integer. So variable equals integer input, and obviously you can input 7, and then it returns 1 line. You could input 99 with it, and it would be an integer. And the reason why it's a little bit of bad practice to do it directly on the input is because what if they still input hello world? You get an error. You get a invalid literal error, which basically means that is not in whatever thing you put inside the integer brackets is not an integer, so it doesn't get converted and it's an error. Now, what you might do, say if you do want an integer, but you don't possibly want that error, you will have selection. So if variable dot is numeric, that'll be what you do. There's different ones for different data types, but that's what we're using. And then variable equals variable int variable. And now you'll see, if we enter the integer, I misspelled that, I forgot the n. Is numeric not? Yeah, it is numeric. I forgot the n. Yeah, we can now enter the 9, and it's an integer. However, if we input a string, it will not mess up our program. Now, that is just one form of data validation. That is type validation. That would be how we get the correct type, but there might be another type of validation you need. So, say if we're doing integer for time of day, the hour of the day, you would want to check that it is within 0 to 24, because it can't be the 900th hour of the day. So what you would do is another selection. Variable is greater or equal to 0, because it could be midnight. And variable is lower or equal to 23. That's a range check. It checks if the integer is within a valid and decent range. So you might then print it is the blah blah hour of the day variable. As you can see, integer, enter message. Let's say I'm saying it's the 8th hour of the day, really early in the morning. It is 8th hour of the day, and it's an integer. However, if I enter that it's the dog, it's not going to do that because that's not an integer. And also, if I enter that it's the 900th hour of the day, it's not going to do it. That is data validation, not data verification. We verify that it is the correct type, and then we verify that it is reasonable for us to use that in the program. That is data verification. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching the video. I do hope you learned something. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Especially comment, because I love hearing how you learn, so I can make better videos for you and me, so we can both learn a bit more effectively. Thank you very much. Hello, all you lovely computer scientists. Today we're going to be showing off input validation in Python. This is useful because it can ensure the program doesn't receive errors when the user is inputting data, while still being able to run properly by making the data correct in some way, by having the user constantly re-input data until it is correct for the program. So, in Python, you will almost always have inputs. And before we showed off input specification, input verification, which are very useful for inputs, but they don't solve the problem. They just mean that it won't screw you up. Today we're going to be showing off a special one, which does solve the problem: input validation. Now, just like before, you'll have your variable equals input message, and then you would have it verified. So if var dot is numeric, we'll say we need an integer. Print integer. So this is verification, right? This is how we verify it so we don't have any screw-ups in the code. But it doesn't solve the problem of what if it is not. Now what it might be is you do this, a loop. While variable, while not variable dot is numeric, you may say, and you have your placeholder value. Just plain placeholders. And then this will make sure that this will loop until the user does the correct thing. So I could put h Python. Nothing I do goes through, because it will keep asking the user until they do the correct thing. This can be more useful than verification, 99 times out of 10. Because it ensures that your program will run how you want it to run, without needing you to sanitize the input, or without you needing to rely on the user to do it correct the first time. As sometimes, even if the user knows fully that they can only input integers, sometimes the user himself does it on accident, right? I might try and type 34, but misclick and put 3e. Sometimes it's not the user's fault, which is why we need verification, validation, and sanitation in our inputs. I'm going to show sanitation next week. Yeah. Validation is repeatedly asking the user for an input until it is viable for the program to use. That's about it. Thank you. Also, don't mind my voice being a bit more gravelly. I've got a chest infection, I think. So that's fun. But yeah, hope you learned something. Thank you very much for watching the video. I do hope you learned something. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please especially comment, because it helps me learn how you learn, helps me make better videos to increase all of our learning potential and make us all better at computer science. Hello all you lovely computer scientists. Today we're going to show off another method of managing your inputs and making them better for your program. We've already showed off verification and validation, which is the process of checking it and re-entering it until it's correct. But now we'll show off sanitation. Input sanitation is where you get your inputs and modify it until it matches the scope of your program. So for example, you might have them input a number, but you only need integers, not floats, so you might use math.floor or round function or math.trunc to change it into an integer rather than a float. Small things like that. Are nearly guaranteed to get inputs, and like I showed before, your input will always be variable equals input, and then we have a message, so we'll just put message. Now, there are many methods of making sure your input is correct for the program. We've already showed off verification, which is just checking it's right. Validation, which is repeatedly inputting. But there is another one, there's a third one, sanitation. This is modifying input. So this might be, if it's a string, so it might be variable equals variable dot lower. Now you might use this for quiz programs, so if variable equals a, print correct. Because what this does is means you don't need to do if variable equals a or variable is equal to uppercase A. Instead, you just need to do one, so it makes the program more efficient. as a variable input is now properly made for our program. So message A, correct. And since it's sanitized to be lowercase, we can also put capital I. It isn't just with strings, it can be with numbers. So let's say we want an integer, right? But we still want people to be able to input floats. So we might do, well, standard verification too. If variable dot is numeric, variable equals variable. Then we might do variable equals variable in the math.for. Math.for. So this will give us an integer no matter what the user inputs. We can input just make sure we print out there. The user could input 8.5 and still we have an integer. 0.5. Oh right, yeah, I forgot. Is numeric only works for integers. Yeah, so say we want an integer, but we still want the user to be able to input other things. So 4.5, we get 4. But if we do 4, we still get 4. So that will always make an integer. There are other things that we could do to sanitize. If they're inputting a name, enter character, let's say you might want to do in .title. So the character's name is also sanitized. So obviously my character, Grog, capitalized. You can sanitize in hundreds of thousands of different ways. We've got not millions. We've got hundreds of commands for this. .title, .remove, .replace, .lower, .upper, .swapcase, many. And most programs will end up needing to use sanitation at some point, especially programs which involve strings. With numbers it's a lot easier because you've got validation and verification checks for numbers much more easily, but for strings that could be anything. So yes, but sanitation, show it off. But here's one more thing with sanitation. Very rarely will you just have that sanitation. You will also usually have validation with it. So a simple presence check. Simple presence check. Also, yes, this does work as a presence check because an empty string or empty list does also count as false. So enter message. If I enter nothing, it'll ask me to re-input. If I enter Grog, it works. And then I can go through the sanitation. There you have it. And this shows off all three of the input managements. Verification with the while loop, as it verifies if it actually is present or not. Validation, as if it isn't present, it will constantly re-ask. And sanitation with the .title, as when you have it, it will adapt the variable to be usable in the scope of the program. And that's about it. Thank you. Thank you all very much for watching the video. I do hope you learned something and I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, but especially comment because I love learning how you learn so I can make better videos for you, for me, and for everybody. And it's a large help overall. Thank you very much.